Last time, Ethan Cole went to the second floor of Hargrove Mansion. He found a study room, a candle burning on the desk, lit by no one. In a house empty for 31 years, on the desk was a letter, written by Harold Hargrove, the man who built something terrible into the walls of this house in 1989. A mechanism, hidden behind the boiler, running on its own, connected to every pipe, every shaft, every wall. Harold Hargrove wrote about what happened to his family after he connected it. His wife lost her voice. His 4 children lost their voices, all of them silent by morning, sitting at the table, hands folded, eyes open, and Harold himself was called into the woods by something that was not quite a voice. His feet carried him there without his permission. They found him 3 days later, standing against a tree, waiting for something no one could see. Harold Hargrove left one instruction in his letter: find the key. The dumbwaiter knows where it is. Ask it. Ethan opened the dumbwaiter door on the second floor. Inside was a small iron key, sitting in the center of the platform, placed deliberately, waiting for 31 years. The moment Ethan picked it up, the dumbwaiter slammed shut. The mechanism in the walls went completely silent, and from somewhere far below the basement floor, something knocked 3 times, and a voice came through the walls. Come down, Ethan. I know what you are here to fix. This is episode 3. This is where Ethan goes down. I stood in that corridor for a long time after the voice stopped, the iron key in my hand, cold, heavier than it should have been. The kind of weight that does not come from metal alone. The dumbwaiter door beside me, splintered at the frame where it had slammed shut. The wood cracked clean through. Whatever force had closed that door, it was not mechanical, not a spring, not a counterweight. Something had slammed it deliberately. The candle was still burning in the study behind me. I could see its light through the open door, still perfectly still, not flickering, as if the air in this house had decided to hold its breath. I looked at the key in my hand, turned it over slowly. The bow was ornate, carved with a pattern I could not quite make out in the dim light. The barrel was long and narrow, old iron, the kind of key that was made to open something specific. Not a door lock, not a padlock, something built for this key alone. I am a mechanic. I understand machines. I understand systems. I understand that every component in a machine has a purpose. Every gear, every valve, every connector. This key had a purpose. Harold Hargrove had spent 31 years in the woods, unable to find out what that purpose was. I had been in this house for 6 hours. I was going to find out. I picked up my toolbox, walked back to the staircase, and started going down. The ground floor was darker than when I had arrived. The light outside had shifted. Late afternoon now. The gray October sky pressing against the tall, narrow windows. The shadows in the entrance hall longer, deeper, reaching further across the dusty floor. The barefoot prints were still there, leading from the front door to the staircase. Undisturbed. I looked at them for a moment, adult-sized, fresh when I arrived, still fresh now, the edges still sharp. Whoever had made them had come in through the front door, had walked across this hall, had gone up those stairs, and had never come back down. I walked past them, past the staircase, past the door to the study and the dining room and the rooms I had not yet entered, down the hall to the basement door, still open from when I had come up, the cold air still drifting out from below, that sourceless cold that had no business being that cold. I went down the stairs. The bare bulb was still on, still working after 31 years of nothing. I walked across the stone floor to the boiler, massive, iron, ancient, the pipes running from it in every direction like veins from a heart. And there, bolted to the side of the boiler, the mechanism. I had noticed it before but not fully looked at it. Now I looked. It was extraordinary, gears within gears, all turning, all moving, perfectly, smoothly, not a sound, not a vibration, turning in complete silence as if sound itself were not allowed near it, chambers opening and closing, small components cycling through motions whose purpose I could not immediately identify. The whole thing humming with a kind of energy that had no source I could find. I crouched down in front of it, put my flashlight directly on it, examined every connection point, every gear, every chamber, and I understood something immediately that Harold Hargrove had not. This mechanism was not broken. It was not malfunctioning. It was doing exactly what it was designed to do. The question was what it had been designed to do, and who had designed it, and why they had hidden it in the wall of a house in Ashwick. I spent 40 minutes with the mechanism, 40 minutes crouched on that cold stone floor with my flashlight and my tools, tracing every connection, every pipe junction, every point where the mechanism connected to the house systems. And slowly, the picture became clear. The mechanism was a regulator. Every old house has systems that need regulating. Pressure, temperature, flow. A boiler needs its pressure controlled. Pipes need their flow managed. Ventilation needs its direction set. In a modern house, you have valves and sensors and thermostats doing all of this. In Hargrove Mansion, this mechanism was doing all of it. Every function, every regulation, one device controlling the entire house. But it was doing something else as well. There was a secondary output from the mechanism. A small pipe I had not noticed at first because it ran down into the floor rather than along the wall like the others. Narrow, dark iron, disappearing straight down through the stone floor of the basement. I traced it with my flashlight, followed it to where it entered the floor, put my hand against the stone around it. The stone was warm, not the warmth of a heated pipe. Something else, something that came from below, from whatever was down there, on the other side of whatever floor I was standing on. I looked at the key in my hand, looked at the pipe going down through the floor, looked at the words scratched into the side of the boiler. Do not fix what was broken on purpose. And I understood. The mechanism had not been broken accidentally. Harold Hargrove had not damaged it by connecting it to the house systems. The mechanism was fine. It was still running perfectly. Something else had been broken, something below the basement floor, something that this mechanism had been originally built to keep contained. Harold Hargrove had connected the mechanism to the house, had drawn its power away from whatever it was supposed to be containing, and whatever it had been containing had slowly, over 31 years, been getting out. I found the door 20 minutes later, not in the basement itself, in a room I had not seen because the door to it was hidden behind a false wall panel at the far end of the basement. The panel looked like solid stone, matched perfectly, but when I pressed it with my palm, I felt the difference immediately. Hollow behind it, cavity, a space. I found the release mechanism on the third examination, a small iron lever set into the wall at knee height, painted over, invisible unless you were looking for exactly that kind of thing. I pressed it. The panel swung inward on hinges that had been oiled recently, not 31 years ago. Recently, someone had been here, maintaining this, making sure this door could still be opened. Beyond the panel was a short stone corridor. Narrow, low ceiling, descending, the walls damp, the air colder than the basement, that sourceless, impossible cold. And at the end of the corridor, a door, iron, massive, 3 times as thick as any door had a right to be, set into the stone wall as if it had been built at the same time as the foundation, as if the house had been built around it rather than the door being put in afterward. In the center of the door, a keyhole, the same shape as the key in my hand. I walked to the door, put my hand flat against the iron, cold, so cold it hurt my palm through my glove, and from the other side, very faint, very slow, breathing. Something was breathing on the other side of this door. I took the key out of my pocket. I am a mechanic. I have spent 30 years fixing things. opening things, understanding things that other people could not. I put the key in the lock. It fit perfectly. I turned it. 1 click, 2, 3. The locks disengaged one by one, each one deeper than the last, each one heavier. The mechanism of this door was extraordinary. Layers within layers. A lock built by someone who understood engineering at a level I had never encountered. The final click, and the door swung open on its own. The cold rushed out like something exhaling for the first time in decades. I raised my flashlight and looked inside. The room beyond the door was not what I expected. I do not know what I expected. Something terrible, something dark, something that matched the cold and the breathing and the 31 years of silence. What I found was a workshop, stone walls, stone floor, a long workbench running the length of the far wall, tools hanging above it, old tools, precision instruments, the kind a clockmaker would use, or a very particular kind of engineer, and on the workbench, spread across its entire length, the components of a mechanism identical to the one upstairs bolted to the boiler, but disassembled, every gear, every chamber, every connector laid out in perfect order, as if someone had been in the middle of building it or repairing it and had simply stopped. In the center of the workbench, a journal. I walked to it, my footsteps loud in the small stone room, the breathing sound gone now, silence complete. I opened the journal. The handwriting was not Harold Hargrove's. It was older, much older. The ink faded almost to nothing on the first pages, the paper brittle at the edges. I turned to the last written page and read. The mechanism was built to contain what lives below this house. It has always lived here, long before the house was built, long before this town existed. It lives in the stone, in the earth. It does not have a name that I know. It has a presence, a weight, a hunger. The mechanism regulates it, keeps it below a certain threshold, keeps it contained. As long as the mechanism runs correctly, it cannot rise, cannot reach, cannot speak, but it is patient. It has been patient for longer than any of us have been alive. If the mechanism is ever disconnected or its power diverted, it will begin to wake, slowly, over years. The room beyond the door was not what I expected. I do not know what I expected. Something terrible, something dark, something that matched the cold and the breathing and the 31 years of silence. What I found was a workshop, stone walls, stone floor, a long workbench running the length of the far wall, tools hanging above it, old tools, precision instruments, the kind a clockmaker would use, or a very particular kind of engineer, and on the workbench, spread across its entire length, the components of a mechanism identical to the one upstairs bolted to the boiler, but disassembled, every gear, every chamber, every connector laid out in perfect order, as if someone had been in the middle of building it or repairing it and had simply stopped. In the center of the workbench, a journal. I walked to it, my footsteps loud in the small stone room, the breathing sound gone now, silence complete. I opened the journal. The handwriting was not Harold Hargrove's. It was older, much older. The ink faded almost to nothing on the first pages, the paper brittle at the edges. I turned to the last written page and read. The mechanism was built to contain what lives below this house. It has always lived here, long before the house was built, long before this town existed. It lives in the stone, in the earth. It does not have a name that I know. It has a presence, a weight, a hunger. The mechanism regulates it, keeps it below a certain threshold, keeps it contained. As long as the mechanism runs correctly, it cannot rise, cannot reach, cannot speak, but it is patient. It has been patient for longer than any of us have been alive. If the mechanism is ever disconnected or its power diverted, it will begin to wake, slowly, over years. over decades. By the time anyone notices, it may already be too late. The journal ended there. I stood in that underground workshop, the iron key in my hand, the open door behind me, the mechanism components spread across the workbench, and then I heard it again. Not from below this time, from above, from inside the house, from every room, every wall, every pipe. Footsteps, slow, heavy, barefoot on old floorboards that had not creaked under my weight, coming down the stairs, coming toward the basement, coming toward the hidden corridor, coming toward me. I turned off my flashlight, stood completely still in the dark, and waited. This is episode 3 of the Hargrove Curse. What is walking down those stairs toward Ethan? What the mechanism was truly built to contain, and whether Ethan Cole can fix what Harold Hargrove broke 31 years ago. That is the story of episode 4, the final episode. Subscribe to Grey Archive Tales, and come back. We will be waiting.